All right, let's go ahead and make a new character. We'll make a Nelf Druid. I think we'll do female Druid. It's bear form. All right, let's see. We're gonna be Big Fluffy. Dun, 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 dun. Actually, let me see if I can be Tifa, or my kitty cat. Nope, darn. Well, I figured. Tifa should count the name. Oh, here we go.
1,000 years, the immortal Night Elves cultivated a druidic society within the shadowed recesses of Ashenvale Forest. And recently, the catastrophic invasion of the Burning Legion shattered the tranquility of their ancient civilization. Led by the Archdruid Malfurion Stormage and the priestess Saranda Whisperwind, the mighty Night Elves rose to challenge the demonic onslaught. Though victorious, the Night Elves were forced to sacrifice their cherished immortality and watch their beloved forests burn. Seeking to regain their immortality, a number of wayward druids conspired to plant a special tree that would link their spirits to
This video is going to be all about the AoE Protection Paladin. I'm breaking it into 4 different sections. So number 1, I'm going to talk about why you should play an AoE Protection Paladin. 2, I'm going to talk about equipping your Paladin, both for leveling and then when you're at 70, the best in slot gear. Number 3, I'm going to talk about talents, what talents you should get while leveling, and what talents you should have at level 70. And 4, where to grind while leveling, where to grind for gold, and where to grind, of course, for boosting. So with that said, let's just jump right into it and start talking about why you should play an AoE Protection Paladin in the Burning Crusade Classic. So number 1, the AoE nerf. The AoE nerf, as of patch 2.2.0, is a Burning Crusade patch, and each rank of a spell is given a maximum amount of damage it can do. So, for example, if you cast a spell with a stated damage of 200 over 10 seconds and an unstated cap of 2,000, I'm going to explain what happens. So, if there's one mob, the spell will deal 200 damage to that single minion. If there are 2 mobs, then each mob will take 200, adding to 400 damage. Now, I'm getting to the point, if there's 10 mobs, each will take 200, adding to 2,000. But here's the thing, if there's 11 mobs, you'll still deal 2,000 damage, but each mob will each take 181.8 damage each. So there's a point where you reach the maximum amount of damage your spell can do, and each mob will be left with more health. So this hurts AoE boosting, where you'd pull all of Mardon in one pull, for example, and each minion would take the maximum amount that your spell would do. Whereas now, if you pull too many mobs, each mob is going to share that damage, dividing up that maximum cap. So I'll give you a more realistic example. Take Blizzard rank 6. It's going to do 1,272 frost damage over 8 seconds, and 363 bonus spell damage. For 1 through 11 mobs, it'll do 236 to 237 damage per damage tick, but if you have 12 mobs, it's going to do 231 to 232 damage per damage tick. So with this nerf, boosting as we know it will probably change dramatically. However, Paladin boosting relies on Holy Shield, Shield Spike, Retribution Aura, among some specific items. And these spells do not do AoE damage and aren't affected by the AoE damage cap. Of course, Consecration is one of those AoE spells that does get nerfed by the AoE cap. But the rest of the stuff I just said is not. So this is going to make Paladins most likely the best in slot boosting class. So if you want to AoE farm, if you want to boost, Paladin will be your class. All right, now that I've convinced you to play Paladin for AoE farming and boosting, let's talk gear. Let's talk with gear progression from the lower levels and work our way up to the best in slot gear. At level 70, I've scoured the internet and I found the absolute best gear for AoE tanking Paladins. You're going to love to see these items, so stay tuned. So while leveling, we're going to start down here at the lowest level. You're going to want to aim for items with a lot of stamina, intellect, and defense. Stamina to survive, intellect to get your mana up, and defense again to survive. So at level 16, it's an alliance only ring, Seal of Rin. It has a little bit of almost every stat. It's a nice ring to go after. It's going to be worth your time. At level 18, we have a horde only ring, Seal of Sylvanas. This gives 8 stamina, which is quite a bit actually for this level. If you're getting boosted, this character is not your main, then you can get it at 18, but you'll probably have to 20 plus if you're going to run Shadow Keep to kill Arugal to bring aside to turn in to get that Seal of Sylvanas. Level 26, we have a horde only Windstorm Hammer. It's got nice stats, plus 6 strength, plus 6 stamina, and can be acquired as low as level 26. But then you're going to have to get rushed because the quest requires you to find a book in the library of Scarlet Monastery, so you probably have to be higher level for that if you want to do it yourself with a group. Here's a big one for AoE leveling. Level 28, you can equip Thermal Plug's Central Core. Now this is basically the ideal shield until you go to Scarlet Monastery. The proc is great, and it will proc off any physical damage hit done to you. And at level 30, we have the Alliance only Talvash's Gold Ring, or the Horde only Nog's Gold Ring. You've got the Grime encrusted ring that drops from Gnomeregan and leads to the quest to make these plus 9 stamina rings. At level 32, you can try to get Dragonclaw Ring. This provides plus 10 stamina, and it's obtainable from level 37 quest in Razorfen Downs, and there's a lot of Razorfen Downs gear that's quite good for you, so we're going to get to that next. At level 33, there's a Horde only Sword of Amun. Even though there's only plus 4 stamina on this weapon, it has a lot of really other good stats like the strength, and the weapon speed is absolutely perfect. Basically, as we go through this, you're going to want a one-handed weapon that does at least 2.
onslaught. Though victorious, the Night Elves were forced to sacrifice their cherished immortality and watch their beloved forests burn. Seeking to regain their immortality, a number of wayward druids conspired to plant a special tree that would link their spirits to the eternal world. Despite Malfurion's warning,
Venom. Gather web with venom stacks from the spiders in and around the shadow thread cave to the north. I can examine them for similar. Welcome back to the next video, everybody. We're about to battle a great evil spider. Get the Estus Vial. Will we win? I don't know. It's gonna be tough.
Keep your wits about.
We are victorious. G freaking G. We did it. We gotta need to grab one of these eggs for the guy as well.
I am forsaken.
Oh yeah, webwood egg. Very wiggly egg. I took one of his eyes, because why not? Not like he needs it anymore. Alright, now we attack. Come on, one more attack. There we go.
I can't carry anymore.
Fine, then don't. Usually that's enough. A couple of hits and then they're dead. Blanket's wholesome. The air vent for the AC is right above my head, so it blows on my shoulders and makes them really cold. So this helps keep me good. Chest. Forget the body. Go to the chest. What's gonna be in here? It could be anything. It could be riches. It could
I
be
can't carry anymore.
some 12 copper and tough jerky and a broken spent shield. Literal garbage. Wealth beyond measure. I know. Eerie, you're back as a sub.
Inventory is full.
WoW didn't have guaranteed quest drops. You had to kill sometimes 20 spiders just to get one item off of them. Well, let's head over this way.
Can we just take a little moment to appreciate the choreography in this practice fight? Think about any stunt double performing these same moves, and you'd be able to tell who's at it again based on the choreography alone. Or maybe it's Hayden, still hasn't put down his lightsaber in 17 years. I'm putting my money on that, actually. Also, what's he trying to do here? Cut his feet off? Man, Obi-Wan is looking so nervous. Tell me again, Anakin, why aren't we using sticks for this? Is this the end for you, my master? Also, Obi-Wan tried to cut Anakin's throne and then going.
Jedi's goal is to defend life, not take it.
Yeah, that's why he went straight for that. Then finally, Anakin gets to stand high above Obi-Wan and say, it's over.
It's over, Anakin! It's like poetry, so if they rhyme.
It's only me who thought this was kind of awkward. He was so proud of himself, and Obi-Wan just goes, only a Sith steals in a victory like that, Anakin. But a sword loser, I would have turned to the dark side too.
Anaria Shola.
We will persevere. Anu Belore Delana. Remember the sun.
The eternal sun guides us.
I am forsaken.
Yes. Remember the sun well. State your business.
Baladash, Malanore.
The Jedi have been keepers of the peace and justice in the galaxy longer than even hyperspace travel has been a thing in the Star Wars universe, and in that time, they have gone to war with a great many powerful enemies, with their most formidable enemy rising to take the form of the Sith Empire. When the Sith emerged, they boasted some of the most powerful technology and weaponry of war that the galaxy had ever seen at that time. It was even suggested that the Sith were the ones who pioneered modern lightsaber technology. The Jedi had to rise to the challenge in order to meet their now imposing strength. In the Jedi's case, this meant fashioning their own war-centered amenities in order to defend against their newly risen threat. This era would usher in the use of Jedi battle armor into vogue. Despite it going against all the tenets of peacekeepers, the Jedi had to form themselves into a militaristic organization, more times than the Jedi would like to admit, or more times than they would want the galaxy to know, mostly in order to deal with the Sith returning every couple hundreds of years to wreak havoc on the galaxy. Much to the chagrin of many Jedi within the Order, they had to don the battle armor and meet their adversaries each time on the field. But there did come a day when both the Jedi and Sith would cease to have armor as their primary kit. This would be until the Clone Wars, when Jedi generals would take on a variation of clone armor, this being exceedingly rare and something that the Jedi had supposedly given up. But why was this? Why did the Jedi and the Sith give up the use of battle armor? Well, stick with us today, curious students of the Force, as we take a look at the history of the Jedi and Sith battle armor, and ultimately attempt to conclude why they stopped wearing it. Our first occurrence of Jedi armor is noted in legends as being an early use of Pius Dea era, wherein the first Jedi Grandmaster of the Jedi Order, Master Biel Doctavis, led the Jedi into war against the Pius Deu, who were a sinister religious organization that had taken over the Republic, and were attempting to spread their prejudice crusade against alien species. During this era, the Jedi would wear full-body metal armor with horn helmets to boot. This armor was to be recognized, as it would be immortalized in galactic history as the sign of the light side and the Jedi Order. In the centuries following, the Jedi didn't use armor so much during the Great Hyperspace War, as the Sith Empire had seemingly come from nowhere, and the conflict started and ended quite suddenly. Therefore, the Jedi simply did not have time to construct battle armor. However, following the Great Hyperspace War, the Jedi would once again construct armor and wear it in the Great Galactic War, as well as the Cold War, whenever the Sith Empire returned. It wouldn't be until the new Sith Wars that the Jedi in the Army of Light would choose to wear battle armor yet again. Some did though, and others did not, as it was a personal preference at the time, and was not the status quo. Though a great many Jedi chose the armor as they were having to pack into tight formation and very close amongst their comrades. This being the case, freedom of movement was limited, which meant that many Jedi couldn't exactly use their agility to their advantage when in the chaos of a battle. Their armor was built to have a healthy balance between movement and protection. However, a great many Jedi who wore armor preferred to emphasize protection over anything else. This was until the ultimate devastation of the planet of Ruusan due to the Thought Bomb. For those of you unfamiliar with the Thought Bomb, this was a Sith ritual that was created by a massive orb of energy that was like a nuclear attack that only affected Force wielders. Before, Lord Khan, who was the leader of the Sith and the Brotherhood of Darkness, could have it reach full power, 100 Jedi from the Army of Light went down and forced them to detonate the Thought Bomb early in order to contain the explosion. All the Jedi and Sith in those caverns were obliterated, and the entire planet became a wasteland. Following this, the entire Republic voted on the Ruusan Reformation, which was an order from the Jedi and the Republic to disband the Army of Light and only go to war when the Senate deemed it appropriate, therefore ending the military ways of the Jedi Order, at least for the time. This was due to all of the stress that the new Sith Wars had on the galaxy, and the devastation of Ruusan was the final straw. At this point in time, and from now on, the Jedi ceased to wear armor entirely, not only because of the Ruusan Reformation, but because the armor represents war, and the Jedi wanted to step away from this image. Armor in itself is for warriors and soldiers. The Jedi considered themselves, though, to be monks and keepers of the peace, which is why they began to exclusively wear robes until the very beginning of the Clone Wars, almost 1,000 years following the significant event. Sith armor, on the other hand, had an intricate history heavily ingrained in the Sith culture. From the Sith purebloods of Korvan to the Brotherhood of Darkness, Sith armor was considered to be a vital source of their cause. On Korvan, oftentimes certain pieces of armor were considered symbols of status or power among the Sith ranks. In battle, the Sith had optimized their armor to provide flexibility as well as better protection. Not only this, but they made it just as fashionable as it was functional, with the Sith oftentimes ensuring that the armor would provide ample amounts of intimidation to their unlucky opponents, which was a key in their strategies. A lot of times, specific armor would be designed for certain types of Sith in order to easily identify their rank in the midst of combat. For example, a Sith Lord's armor would be vastly different in comparison to that of a Sith Marauder or a Sith Assassin. They would also adorn their armor with different markings and trophies that they would claim in combat. However, this would all be changed by Darth Bane following the Ruusan Reformation and the formation of the Sith Rule of Two. Of course, though, Darth Bane is quite famous for wearing armor, as for a long time he was known for his iconic Orbalist armor. Bane, though, only had the Orbalist armor due to them having latched onto him, so it wasn't exactly by his freedom of choice. Bane was not a man who cared anything about tradition, values, nor doctrine. He believed only in the philosophy of the Sith and the Rule of Two, and cared only what was proven to be useful. For Bane, even wealth and power were only a means to an end to achieve this power in the Force, and Darth Bane regarded anything that didn't have immediate usefulness as a waste of time, and therefore undeserving of any attention from the Sith. This would include the likes of armor, at least for the time being. You see, once Darth Bane established the Sith Rule of Two, the Sith were to go underground and hide away from the galaxy. They had to be in the shadows and live amongst the common people. You can't exactly blend in if you're walking around the streets in a full suit of spiked, black-plated armor. In fact, during the entire time that Bane had the Orbalist armor on him, he had to send his apprentice Zana out on errands in order to get anything done, not wanting to give himself away in the slightest. Although the Orbalist gave him power and protection, he was ultimately hindered by them, so he had to get rid of the armor. This sentiment by Darth Bane would be carried down the line of Sith, and over time, the idea of wearing armor fell out of style completely for dark side wielders. as they now focused entirely on blending in and bringing about the grand plan of the Sith. Shows of strength were done in the shadows and were to be kept secret, waiting for the perfect opportunity. Now, of course, though, we must talk about the Clone Wars. In the Clone Wars, Jedi would once again don armor once the outbreak of the Republic and the Separatists came. At this point in time, a great many Jedi generals exclusively wore the variations of clone armor on their forearms and legs below the knee. This was because the armor provided genuine protection for their hands when wielding lightsabers. On a normal basis, Jedi wouldn't care much about this. However, when they were having to fight in large battlefields with debris and laser bolts flying every which way, they had to ensure that their hands would stay protected so that they could continue to use their lightsabers. Also, the arm guards provided an easily accessible comm link, and in some cases, even contained a grappling hook. The shin guards and armored boots provided similar protection to the Jedi from debris, but was also useful when traversing more natural environments. Since the battlefield was on a great variety of planets, each with their own unique biomes, the Jedi had to make sure that their feet were protected when slogging through swamps, stepping over potentially corrosive flora, and climbing up sheer mountaintops. In the early stages of the war, Obi-Wan and Anakin wore a lot more armor than at the end of the Clone Wars, going as far as using even breastplates, shoulder plates, and full arms of clone armor. This was mostly to indicate their allegiance and devotion to their clone troopers, who had grown quite fond of the Jedi. At one point in time, Obi-Wan went as far as even wearing a clone commander's helmet during the Battle of Lunarist when jousting against Dirge. The Jedi, however, would begin to drop the armor towards the latter stages of the Clone Wars, as their approval rating amongst the wider galaxy had begun to plummet, and many of the galaxy were seeing them only as soldiers. But of course, it would ultimately prove to be far too late for them to attempt to return to their formal dress code and the robes. Well, friends, what did you think of the video? Have you been wondering about this topic? And we hope we explored it in depth enough in this video. Do you think that the Jedi and Sith should have continued to use their battle armor? Let us know your thoughts in the comments down below. And as always, students of the Force, may the Force be with you, and have a great day.
It's still recharging. I can't use that item yet. It's still recharging.
What you're seeing in there is not a natural collapse. I've seen collapses in my shaft, and it's not that. Something is down there. Something's being hidden down there. We gotta dig until we get to the bottom, so I'm not gonna stop until we get to the bottom, though. Somebody is hiding something in that hole.
Brand new allegations about Susan Powell's disappearance. We did talk to the police who are in charge of this investigation. They say they are not responding to any of these new allegations because this case is still open and active.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got a big day, a big video for you, a big day for us.
It's not even daytime yet.
It's not even daytime yet.
It's the earliest I've ever been with you, by the way.
Is it?
I think so.
I think it probably is. Listen, our vlogs are getting earlier and earlier because we're starting to go further and further out into the wilderness, which is exactly what we're doing today. Today's video could be very bittersweet. Could be nothing at all. We are going to search an old abandoned mine shaft in the west desert of Utah for a missing person. Some of you may have heard of this case, very high profile, Susan Powell. She went missing back in 2009, and it's believed that her husband, who killed her probably, dumped her body in a mine shaft. Now, these mine shafts have been searched hundreds of times, except for one shaft that we got a little bit of a tip on from our buddy Alan Morris with the compound out in the mountain. He also has a friend named Les Metal, and Les explored this mine. You're gonna meet Les here in a little bit, but he went down and basically there's some suspicious stuff going on. They kind of like collapsed it, trying to cover things up, so we believe that there's a chance that her body was thrown in the mine, debris was thrown on top of it, and the searchers who have gone to look there have not gotten past that debris. So we're taking a new recovery vehicle, we're taking a lot of guys, a lot of supplies, and we're gonna go clear that mine all the way to the bottom.
So that's the story.
That's the story.
That's the first time I've heard of this.
Oh, yeah.
I was told to just bring some rope, climbing gear, ascending gear, and a good attitude. So here we are. This is insane.
Look at me, Les here.
All right, guys, real quick, I need to talk to you about one of my favorite and very most important and relied upon life hacks. So as many of you know, I'm a busy dude. I'm all over the place, always on the go, whether I'm filming, working, meetings, traveling, just literally, I don't spend a ton of time standing still or at home. So what that means is my diet is all over the place. I like to eat healthy, I like to feel good, but I don't always have time to prepare the meals with fruits and veggies and all different nutrients that my body needs, which is why the sponsor of today's video is probably my favorite sponsor of all time, because these guys right here have come up with a solution to help me get all those vitamins and nutrients that my body needs, even when I'm on the go. So Athletic Greens, basically, they're a company that has developed a super greens mix with over 75 different vitamins, minerals, and whole food source ingredients. As you can see, they say made for just about everybody, and that's not a lie. My wife takes it, my kids take it, we all take it. So basically what happens is this little travel pack I keep with me everywhere I go. And I take it and I mix it with a bottle of water. So all I do when I need a boost is I pour the greens into the shaker, pull it on, shake it, take the extra dust and go like that. And then, ladies and gentlemen, I have myself a delicious
It's locked.
Work complete.
Anaria Shola.
Peace is a lie. There is only passion. Through passion, I gain strength. Through strength,
For most of us, this really is the RPG MMO. Last time, I finished the story of Ossus, and I looked on a Legacy of the Sith's really very rocky launch. Well, it turns out I had a way to go. How much? Well, 10 hours of story content. Yep, that is what the slice of SWTOR's equivalent of the MSQ, released between October 2019 and February 2022 took. Of course, the game did release more content than that, daily zones and things like that, but on the whole, it's not a humongous amount of story content, and in general, this game doesn't get massive quantities of content. So, was what I played good? Why did this whole situation happen? Did I actually even enjoy my journey? Well, let's start. A year after Ossus introduced Malgus' return, Anri and the excellent saboteur system Onslaught would release, and SWTOR would finally have itself a nice chunk of story. Here's the deal. The Empire has enough fuel to fly straight to Corellia and get their war on. The Republic don't. As a member of the Empire, I've got to harry them at every opportunity. As a saboteur, I've actually got to fail to do that in a convincing fashion. It's a pretty damn fun setup that injects dialogue with far more intrigue, and more beyond just the unique saboteur dialogue options. It's fun to be two-faced, acting all loyal to the Sith that you fully intend to betray, but Major Anri is fun. Perhaps a romance option. So, yeah, that's a good position for the saboteur plotline to be in. And their decision to allow for saboteur runs of both storylines is fantastic. Onderon, then, is our first planet, and it's gorgeous. This engine is old, some aspects are rough, but the art direction is really solid, and it does just come together. My story centers around duping a fool of a king who's facing a coup from his own family, aided by the Republic. So a perfectly easy to control man. I save him from assassins, accidentally take off all of Lana's clothes and then lose the UI to put them back on, rendering her stuck in underwear for a few hours, which was a little bit awkward. Then I proceeded to engage in a whole bunch of skullduggery on the planet. You see, we want control of their orbital defense cannon so that we can soften up the pubs. So, along with my Wookiee friend, I head out into the wilds, I fight beasts, I generally be deceptive, even rallying a traditionalist faction to our side, all culminating in a big cool raid on the Republic-backed faction settlement. Here the pace is brisk, the story's engaging, the characters are all fun. You can of course revel in being a member of the Empire and just kill so many of the named characters. Or not. There are plenty of little choices, all leading up to the big one. Do I carry out my duty, or do I destroy the cannons? Well, the controller for the cannon, failing my own mission and purpose. Of course, I do the latter. Being saboteur is just so much more interesting to me. And that's it for Onslaught's first planet. It's somewhat short, but fun. Next, it's Meksha, a outlaw asteroid that actually would prove to be shorter. Almost an hour on the dot. It was a good hour. I dealt with outlaws as I tried to sabotage the Republic's refueling attempts. Just that, of course, being a saboteur, I'm actually sabotaging that plan, letting the Republic fleet escape, all while drinking in the extremely cool environment of Meksha. It's strange. This place is so nice to be in. It's just really cool. Yet, there's not a lot of story there. And I kept on thinking, okay, this is great, this is fun, but they really could have got more out of this if they wanted to.
The planets do, of course, have other content, but it is odd that the story goes so brisk at this point. 2.5 hours after starting, and I'm ready for Onslaught's finale, which is the Corellia Flashpoint. Now, as much as a bit more spectacle would be welcome, I understand they have some engine limitations, and with that, Corellia is cool. We get a big space battle cinematic, a few cool choices, strategic bombardment and such, and then the actual Flashpoint itself, a big ground assault. Flashpoints are essentially dungeons in this game, just that they've got a story mode. Now, yeah, pack after pack of mobs does get dull, but overall, it's a neat system. The Flashpoint is fun, the story is solid, Malgus and I fight a big fight, he gets wounded, and I, of course, sabotage the entire Empire plan, totally ruining their mission. Which, when you think about it, it's actually a pretty damn big move. That's the thing. It actually does feel like you changed the story here. There's a payoff. I feel like I really did that. I think moments like that are modern Star Wars Old Republic at its best. So, while short, Onslaught was a blast. It was fun. It was a nice slice of my favorite Star Wars setting with fun characters. After that, things get a little strange in how you play them now. You get breadcrumb quest after breadcrumb quest, though there's times where you do them back to back, even though evidently a decent span of time has passed. That's just what it's like when you're playing this stuff after the fact. But it's all setting up the two main storylines, the Mandalorian storyline, and then the Kira/Scourge duo, dealing with, of course, Tenebrae. Of course, you'll have seen him as Valkorion in the Fallen Empire Eternal Throne storyline. And that latter story is just brilliant. I don't want to give it away too much. Just know it was a great hour and a half that had a really, really cool final area. It was just brilliant. Super satisfying end to that storyline. I'm glad they pulled that one off. As for the Mandalorian stuff, honestly, didn't really care. Malgus, well wounded. He wasn't dead. And worse for the Empire, he then went missing. Malgus, of course, is a powerful ally, but a worse foe, and with the kill switch that was installed in him, disabled, we've got to work out what's going on. So I go to Dantooine with Rivix and Krovos, who are a really fun duo of Sith. It's basically a big Flashpoint with quite fun lore. So at this stage, really, I'm in the groove. I'm having a pretty great time. So it's time to start Legacy of the Sith, the game's latest expansion. Onslaught was brisk. Legacy of the Sith, though, well, the new Manan storyline takes 90 minutes. There's a roughly hour-long Flashpoint after that, so I suppose 2.5 hours in total versus the 3.5 hours of Onslaught on its launch, with, of course, quite a bit more content through its patch cycle. So it's not looking great for Legacy of the Sith. What I will say, though, is I'm back with Major Anri. The story continues in the strong form that I have come to expect from the game. And yes, on the Empire side, you're there with Anri, who's just one of the more fun characters, being a little bit more, I don't know, just kind of not a weird Sith person. Basically, Manan has resources. We want him. We don't want the Republic to have him. Simple enough, really. Throw in a questionably competent Imperial and another lunatic Sith, and it is a nice solid slice of SWTOR story. The usual strength supply, and with a final kiss, the Anri situation is heating up. Which then makes me wonder, how are the writers going to have her deal with my character being a double agent? Yeah, Saboteur is the way to go. There's just so much more intrigue. And that's the journey, actually. That is the journey. Next, then, I'm going to talk about pros, cons, how this happened, and what I would actually recommend to you. Well, now that you know my experience, I just want to talk about a few pros and cons. This is hardly a review of the game, just things that have came to my mind. Alright, characters. They continue to be well written and well performed. A lot of them are just fun, and I think that's kind of the benefit of rolling Empire and just having weird Sith people. Production values are also pretty high for the conversational content. It's all, well, engaging, as I suppose a Star Wars BioWare RPG should be. Then the Old Republic era. It still is one that I feel quite drawn to. I kind of think it's the best era of Star Wars, to be honest, so I just like spending time here. And then, as a story, what I played was engaging enough. Plenty of different locations, cool things to do. It was totally worth my time. Not just throwaway MMO leveling. It was actually story to do in a game. Now, for some of the less positive things, class gameplay I think is just okay. I think in a world where FF14 is doing what it does, and World of Warcraft is doing what it does, this just doesn't really compete. Of course, if you want stuff themed around Star Wars, this is your only option, and it's a good enough one at that, but I don't think it's a game I'm going to be playing for the incredible sort of gameplay fun. Now, the new expansion also did have a few bugs. I found the performance was oddly bad on the planet of Manan, and the UI revamp is honestly often hideous. I don't understand why they made it so painful in the eyes, and there are times where it does kind of feel like they pad out the length of the content by just throwing waves of enemies at you. I'd even be happier if this game had a near FF14 ratio of combat to conversation. That would totally play to the game's strengths. At least all of the Sith plotting and all the skullduggery, it's really fun. But perhaps they just don't have the budget to actually do that. So it's odd to see a BioWare game with the Star Wars IP of all feel this, well, sparse. What I played was great, but what I played today did come out over a 2 and a third year span. So as we try to work out what's going on with this game, well, let's take a look at the recent history. Anthem released in January 2019. It was an unmitigated disaster, and part of the plan of that game is that BioWare Austin would help in a major way. They're the same studio that handles Star Wars Old Republic, so after co-developing, they'd of course be helping out with the live service aspect of the game, which would make sense. Of course, they've been running an MMO for years. Anthem's limp start and total mess around the first Cataclysm event soon scuppered those plans, leading to a project to reboot Anthem, and that project was going on, I believe, mostly in BioWare Austin. They essentially wanted to pull off a No Man's Sky. Well, they didn't. That project lasted until February 2021, when its cancellation was announced. Now, the thing is, Legacy of the Sith was supposed to come out December of that year, but it was, of course, pushed back to February 2022. Now, I'd say that's because the public test server revealed bugs, but many, dare I say most of the bugs from the PTS, actually made it to launch. So, it was delayed, it was still a mess on launch, all while the studio had Anthem fail, and then, of course, the project to save Anthem be cancelled. So, no wonder Legacy of the Sith has been messy. Now, Onslaught likely was not safe either. You see, the Old Republic pushed heavily into story content with 2015 and 16's Fallen Empire and Eternal Throne. Those were pretty large narrative expansions that released back-to-back. I mean, think about that content cadence. That was a lot of stuff. But things would only slow down from there. New content did release, but the pace was kind of slow, actually. It took from 2016 to the end of 2019 to release Onslaught. The content that I did in the previous SWTOR video on this channel was at the end of 2018. It was a full year before Onslaught happened. Now, I can't know this stuff for sure, but the slowdown in SWTOR sure does seem to coincide with Anthem. I don't get too conspiratorial, but think about Anthem. Its 2017 E3 demo was not exactly representative of a fully made game they had. Definitely not. The game essentially had been rebooted into its final direction around that time. I think they actually changed its name to Anthem like weeks before that E3. They even had t-shirts printed of its old name, which I think was Beyond or something. So, from 2017 to 2019 for Anthem is almost certainly an all-hands-on-deck situation. I cannot confirm anything, but it does feel like SWTOR got caught up in that mess, and I've got to wonder why where Austin is still getting back on its feet. You likely experienced a lot of brain drain, that's for sure. Now, perhaps a glimmer of hope, as I recently saw, they do have a fair few job openings, so I suppose that could be a good thing. Now, to be fair to them, the content that I played after Anthem's release, the stuff made for release in that period, has been great. It's just that the quantity hasn't really been there. It's certainly not enough to compete with other narrative-driven MMOs in the market, like, say, the 4-month major patch release schedule of FF14. Now, you are right. This might all seem mixed, but I can't tell you, in spite of all of this, I do wholeheartedly recommend The Old Republic, especially if you haven't played it. The 8 origin stories are, I think at the very least, solid, with many of them being fantastic. Sith Warrior, as an example, is brilliant, so there's just so much content there. And then the expansion stories are also great. Revan sees you meet characters who will become important later, and then the whole Fallen Empire Eternal Throne story is just excellent. Then, of course, what I did today was 10 hours of enjoyable story content. All of that is easily worth the cost of admission, which I suppose is free, but I would just say subscribe. It's just not worth being gimped by the free-to-play stuff, and all those expansions and all that content is included in the sub. I mean, even if you play the game for 3, 4, or 5 months to go through all of this story content, it would still be a pretty amazing value for how much stuff you actually get. Now, Onslaught Onwards, of course, does have replayability as well. I mean, at a stretch, you could do Loyalist and Saboteur for each side, but more realistically, there's the core Republic and Empire storyline. So if you're doing that with 2 characters, yeah, make it more like 20 hours if you want to do both. So, SWTOR is not the game that has it all. But what it does have, I think, is pretty great. You could do a lot worse. And I'm not really even a Star Wars person. I mean, I like the first 2 movies. The prequels are, ideas, not execution. I think the sequels are mostly embarrassing. Episode 9 felt like, an unholy affront to the art of filmmaking. I can't believe they released Episode 9. Whatever. I only just watched it recently. I knew it wasn't great going in, but holy shit, I've never seen it. It was a movie edited like a TikTok. Just don't let anything linger. Oh, I could talk about that thing for a while. It's just so incompetent. So point is, I'm not saying this from the perspective of being a franchise fanboy. In the same way that I went into FF14, mostly blind in that franchise, and really did enjoy myself a tremendous amount. Similar thing here. Not as much of it, not to the same degree. FF14, I think, is a cut above, narratively, especially as you get towards its well, Heaven's Ward and its, like, I guess Heaven's Ward, Shadowbringers, Endwalker. Stormblood's got a lot of brilliant stuff, but you know what it's like with that. So I'm not going to say this is up there, but I will say that if you just want a big story in a game, like, this is a really good option. And certainly, if you've enjoyed FF14 and you also like the Old Republic era, or at least it seems interesting to you, then it really is a no-brainer. Now, if you would like a guide through this story, not spoilers, but just where to go, what to do, because of course MMOs can be pretty overwhelming, then check out the SWTORista story order video. That one will get you sorted, so you won't be confused about where to go. As for me in this game, well, I'm at level 80 now. May as well see what the end game is. I just realized that they have ship fighting. I thought it was only the Star Fox style thing that the game ship with, but I remember from playing it back then. But no, it has actual flying around ships, which is like totally up my alley. So, SWTOR endgame, I'm going to see what it is. I should have then my final SWTOR report for you next week, maybe the week after. Till then, though, hope you found this interesting. Yep, it's time for a new channel. You're going to get a lot of MMO content on here, even sorts of things we've never done before. But enough of that, it is Final Fantasy 14 time, because it looks like... Well, it's happened. I kind of just can't stop. And the funny thing is, I've just finished the free trial of Final Fantasy 14. Yeah, Heaven's Ward, done. 3.5.6, done. Finished the patches, and man, it's as if the patches, it's like the expansion after the expansion. It's crazy just how much really good plot they're able to get into those patches, and just how well they capitalize and everything. So today, it is time to continue the journey of, my journey through Final Fantasy 14. The first thing I want to talk about is the first set of patches for Heaven's Ward. So first, we've got to talk about the Dragon Song patches. And man, what a great way to capitalize on everything you've set up. That's really the core. 3.0, I think it had a overall very satisfying conclusion, especially at a character level, right? All of the cast, all the people around you, it just ended very satisfying. But they did a really good job of still dangling the very obvious looming threat. And I suppose, look, I can't really talk through these things without spoilers, can I? So spoilers. The looming threat of Nidhogg, right, and all of that. Super well set up. And then, of course, that all really works because you kind of understand the political situation with the dragons, even within the dragons, how everything is set up in Ishgard, which, again, that whole thing of, like, society's foundational myth being questioned and changing, and how society actually is able to move forward through that stuff that's just very interesting to me in general. So it was pretty much firing on all cylinders. It was interesting, so I think, was it point 1 that started off a little bit slow, but then you get that duty at the end, right, where the Holy Seas, kind of like diehard people are still causing a ruckus, Emmerich almost gets assassinated, you're like, oh shit, yes, there's still lots to do, there's still lots going on. This is a pace that is evidently a lot faster than what I came to expect with the Realm Reborn patches, at least earlier on with them. And then they start doing all of the fun things like teasing shit, Why is Urianger talking to friggin' Ascian? What's going on? So all of that was, man, also so well set up. And it's just that thing where, the patches, they're not extra bits of story, they really are the rest of the story, a continuation of the story. And I've said this before, I'll say it again, but as compared to World of Warcraft, it's like World of Warcraft does all of this, like, really, all this world building that just kind of goes nowhere, or goes really not that far in its expansion, and then the actual A-plot just zips at lightning speed through the patches. Whereas with this, they're a very reasonably paced main campaign, and they just continue to give you more of it through the patches. And that just all means that the pacing, the time you spend with the characters, it's those more experiential parts of something, and it's just the sort of thing where you care about Ishgard and its cast of characters. 3.0 left you in this perfect place, and that means that by the time the rest of it happens, Emmerich gets stabbed, you see all of that unfold. Like, I mean, I was surprised how much I did not want him to die, right? I had that reaction to that cutscene, I was like, no, you haven't fucking killed him. No, you're not allowed to. Turned out he was okay, but still. They're getting surprisingly died to all of these characters. Now, after the stabbing of Emmerich, really the pace does increase a lot. You get this definite sense of things being on a knife edge. And as you move into 3.2, I love them just spending time with the townspeople, and this is something, because, spoilers, I'm into Stormblood in a minute. It's something I really like that they do here. They do try to keep things grounded to the real experience of the real people who live in these fictional city-states, but it makes it all feel very real. They're spending time with the townspeople. So, yeah, you totally get that thing if they spent all of the sons have died, the daughters have died, all this stuff and now they're just being asked to make peace with them all and end it. And you just understand their struggle. And that just builds Ishgard out to feel a lot more rich, a lot more real. It makes the story feel grounded in a way where, it's not like so, oh my god, epic moments all of the time. Super, like, popcorny fantasy. It's not that.
I mean, yeah, obviously there's bits where you look at your player character like, God damn, I am very cool, I'm very badass, in spite of how I look a bit silly. You know, yeah, there is all of that, and the times they do have their more, over the top flourishes and stuff, but the actual setup of the world and the plot all just feels really, it just feels grounded. And that means that smaller incidents hit way harder. And with Blizzard and World of Warcraft, they're doing their burning of Teldrassil and all of that, and they're not treating it with the care and attention that Square Enix are treating things like this. And I think I'll have similar things to say as I go through Stormblood a little bit more, actually having the plight of the people. And that just makes the story feel like it matters. It makes Eorzea feel like it matters. Comparing to patch 8.2.5 of WoW, I mean, they just do that stuff with the common folk better. Now, moving to the Grand Melee, I mean, that was great, because it made sense in terms of, the plot and it being grounded and everything, but also, it's a nice, lighthearted break of pace, and I get to fight Robam, and that's pretty fucking cool. He's just so cool. I don't know what else there is to say, he's just so cool. He's only got one arm, he just uses it 5 times as hard. So all of that is, just, all perfect. And then all, of course, taking us to the conclusion, 3.3, the End of Dragon's Song War. The dungeon, first of all, with Praise Kilter, very fun. And then you get that Nidhogg fight. Like, I don't know exactly how they do it, but the sense of scale they're able to achieve is just so goddamn strong in this game. The spectacle of that Nidhogg fight was incredible. And I mean, if I think about the times that I fought dragons, there's the end of the Realm Reborn. There's that dragon fight, of course, Bahamut, and Nidhogg, and it's just like, man, every time you fight dragon, it's just really cool, really cool. So I love that. Great scene. What a great trial. And then as you exit that, of course, Estinian's in a bad way, and Alphino, and this is where Alphino was like, well, so much of Heaven's Ward is you and Alphino journeying together. And it kind of, Yoshi P definitely shone a spotlight in this when recently he talked about, Alphino was a bit of a redditor in a Realm Reborn. By the time Heaven's Ward's done, he's grown, and you really do feel like that. They do this good job of, he still is a smart bastard and all of that, but he's also young. He's also going to struggle with dealing with these things, emotionally opening up a bit more. And yeah, he's completely perfectly done. I really think, and it's just this thing that they're doing, and there's some of this with Yshtul and their Kryle and stuff as well, where the way that they're kind of rebuilding the Scions, it's like they built out the Scions in a very expansive way, decently quickly early in Realm Reborn, and now they're more slowly building the Scions back again, but in a way where it all feels so much more driven by the motivations of those characters, not just in how they serve the plot, but like them themselves. And it's just really strong. So by the end of 3.3, you've got all the great character stuff going on. You've got that feeling of the world actually changing, and you really do have a sense of the importance of your character in all of these events. They managed to do that thing where, I mean, look, you very much are just doing the dirty work of the Scions in a way, but they managed to do that without you just feeling like a battle mule. I guess for other things, I've said this before, like the dragon lore, I really like it. It doesn't feel generic. Other things as well, like I like how they're happy to do quiet moments, sharing a meal with Emmerich. At the start, I think 3.3, you invite over to his house, you reminisce, you go on like you are, colleagues, comrades, friends, like you've actually spent quite a lot of time with this character, and this character actually knows you. So with Emmerich, they've been able to do that in, a way Blizzard have never done with the likes of Vayner and Winterthrall or any of those people. So yeah, just between Emmerich being there, of course, Alphino as your partner in crime, of course then the character deaths that they very well executed up to this point. But of course, that's actually not where it ends. Patch 3.2, or 3.4. See that Warrior of Darkness stuff? See the first time? I have to find the text messages that I said in that, but it was a bit of a, whoa, wait, what's Meteor doing here? But he's evil. I'm confused. The Warrior of Darkness stuff is great. It's such a good way to cover that, like, cosmic spooky lore. And the first thing I really noticed with patch 3.4 is Alisaie. Alisaie is such a bloody good character to have around. I'll talk about her a bit more later, but Alisaie is just so good to have in the cast. She rounds things out in here perfectly. But yeah, so as for 3.4, builds, I mean, you've got the shock, obviously, of Alisaie just being shot, but other than that, it's a little bit slow. And then, you finish the dungeon, Warrior of Darkness party is there. And it's really funny because, I mean, there's people that boost through this stuff. How on earth could you, I haven't got near Shadowbringers, obviously, but between doing patch 3.4 and, of course, A Realm Reborn, I'm just thinking, like, how on earth could you go near Shadowbringers without actually playing this content? Surely it would make no sense. So for this, yes, loads of mind blows. I was super hooked. All of that Urianger stuff, I'm like, come on now, you wouldn't really. And of course, he doesn't really betray you, does he? But it's, God, the lore is so interesting. I'm still trying to, like, more wrap my head around it. And yeah, I'm still trying to wrap my head around the lore, all the stuff with, like, the source, and I suppose all of these, like, all of the different worlds. I need to not let some thoughts that I have from other fictional universes like Age of Sigmar sort of come in here. The idea, though, of, like, there is a... see, right now, I don't know if it's, like, literally another world, or if it's basically alt Eorzea, and those, like, sort of different permutations came to be, but for whatever way it works, Warrior of Darkness and Screw feel like, big villains at the start, right? That's just what they feel like. As time goes on, though, you do start to feel bad for them. You actually learn what's happened to their world. It's being basically bathed in light. But, not in a glorious, happy way, more in a your entire world is being disinfected kind of way. And I think a lot of it's through, I guess, Warrior of Darkness, Meteor's voice acting, but you can feel it in his voice. You actually do feel bad for them. The way that their role in the story concludes, and I don't know if they come back in the future, but the way that it seems to conclude, just like hits really well, and in a way where, you the player, you're just like, man, okay, I've been trying to follow this Hydaelyn Zodiark stuff and work out what all these Ascians are doing, and it just gives you a real brain conundrum to reckon with, doesn't it? And the main thing I was thinking is, my god, what would it have been like playing this when it was new content, not knowing about Shadowbringers? So basically, most of my time was spent going, what the fuck is going on? And now I'm so excited for Shadowbringers, because, I mean, all I know is there's this world washed with light, they have to be the Warriors of Darkness, blah, 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 and then I think about the cinematic for Shadowbringers, I guess I really shouldn't have watched, the big sort of angel looking nice and evil, I'm like, oh, sign me up. So that was great. And then, of course, there is the Storm of Blood, because the final patch I thought was just incredible. And I don't even know where to begin. I mean, there's obviously the emotional core of it, which is Catalina. And again, this is just another case of thank you to everyone who told me to do Coils of Bahamut. Well, it's not just Coils, it's the whole everything of Bahamut. Do Bahamut, please. I guess you've probably already done Bahamut if you're looking at this video, but people really need to do Bahamut to have these things actually land. It's like the whole Louis Vuitton's finest student thing. It just doesn't really work as well if you've not done Bahamut. So, in terms of broad narrative tropes, probably not going. I know I've kind of skipped to this bit. Like it hits surprisingly not given how little time you spent with that character, but I mean, he has been decent. You actually you do feel it. It also has some inherited feels from Bahamut and Louis Vuitton and all that. I like then how they started to bring in player choice. Now, not player choice in a way that changes the outcome, but it's important to be able to define who your character is in this story. So, Ada, not really wanting to leave. I was like, okay, well, you know what? I'm not going to abandon you. Then, of course, he's just like, be gone. But just, it's a really, look, it's basically just a really good moment, and so far they've hit every single one of these moments. And that's just good. Nero and Sid. The Nero Sid dynamics are the best. I enjoy them so much, and you know, it really works here in all of this stuff. Because I should also say, the Doman fella, pronunciation, I can't believe that's just left my head. The way that they intro him had me almost belly laughing, because you know, like the I was more Belfast, yo, but you know that like little meme video they play? I'm very sure they literally used that for his introduction. But yeah, he actually feels like a real character. So it's that sort of thing as well, you know, the Domans arriving there. Like, I met Yugiri in, I don't know, 3.1, 3.2? Or sorry, 2.2, 2.1, something like that, ages ago. And you know, now I'm with Yugiri, of course, in Stormblood. It's like, they set shit up. It makes sense, the story continues, the stuff still makes sense, and then it's brought back up again. And I know this is like basic narratives. What can I say? I haven't exactly been used to these things being done perfectly in an MMORPG. And here it is, right? So even when we have a situation of, you know, there's I suppose, like a primal has been summoned, it's the ritual bindings kept within, we have a, you know, Omega, so some, crazy technology thing. Even with all of this stuff happening, the rules of this world make sense. And it's the sort of thing I really recognize doing. People are going to see, you know, the Forests of Gridania, then they're going to see Magic Attack, and they're like, what the hell? This is just a bunch of random shit thrown into a world. Then they'll see friggin' Noctis's boy band car, and they'll be really confused. But it's like, once you actually get past that initial bewilderment, like within the world, like the logical consistency, all of that stuff is just really damn solid. And I guess that's it. Erzzy is just really well established. Ilberd. I really did jump the gun, didn't I? Because, of course, Ilberd's long dead by the time of most things I talk about. Ilberd's a great villain. Such a good villain. I mean, it's how they develop it in the Realm Reborn patches, where, you know, you suspect there's corruption and bullshit going on in the Crystal Prairies. And they know that you suspect that. So then the way they separate what you expect is by being like, oh no, they're actually just completely corrupt and you're being played. And that was really strong. Ilberd's betrayal was really strong. Everything with Ilberd's been really strong. And he gets his new voice actor. And it's really funny because whatever reason, whenever he talks, I kind of just hear Bobby Beep. But other than that, he's just great. And by the end, he's such a fucking unhinged madman. But also with a bit of a point. And the way that he's just thrusting us all, you know, all into this conflict in a way where we really can't control it. Just Ilberd's great. He's really well motivated. He's logically consistent. Like, yes, he does act in a very villainous, evil way, but he absolutely is the hero of his own story. It's just he literally is willing to do anything to, you know, advance the Alamegan cause. So he's really, really well done. And all of that just led to a fantastic patch, a fantastic finish. You know, I right after that, like, I thought I'd be like, okay, well, I'm a bit sleepy, so time to, you know, go to bed, revisit this game tomorrow. No, I quickly blasted down some notes, and I'm like, what am I going to do? Stormblood. So, to wrap this video up, then I just want to highlight a few things I liked. So, character dialogue from the Warrior of Light. It's getting stronger, and it's great proof that direct mechanical output of your choice is not required. Whenever you give a player a choice like that, what they say to themselves is, how do I respond to this? How do I respond to Paladin's situation? You know, do I just go and do as he says? Or do I, because even though I know, that stage is very clear he's going to die, I know if I stay, he's going to die anyway, and I'm probably going to end up back on that airship somehow, but my character's decision is like, well, do I resist you just a little bit so that, you know I care and I don't want to abandon you, you don't feel alone at the end? That is what the character choice does, and that is how it impacts the player playing the game, even though the choice means absolutely nothing in terms of the final outcome. So it forces the player to actually examine what's going on, think about the story, how it pertains to them, and really define who their own character is, which will make them closer to their own character, which will have them more invested in the story. You can do all of this while still having your choice not matter at all. And that is when, you know, we take principles like gameplay first, and we apply them in a very blind and very rigid way. We lose out things like this that are very important. The next thing then, Alizé. You know what, that bit when she's like, man, all this political speech, load of bullshit. Look at my brother. Look how he goes on. How silly. Great. So Alizé being, just the way that Alizé is, she actually feels a bit more close to the player. She's not some sort of, like, you know, diplomat scholar. And yes, she still absolutely is a, you know, a Shardian from a fantasy world, but, you know, it feels like she could blend into our world a lot easier than Alphino could. But that just means she's a nice sort of grounding character for the cast. So I think she's super valuable, and the dynamics between her and Alphino, the way that they've changed up and softened with Alphino's character development and also hers, again, really, really puts into perspective how extremely important it is to play the Bahamut storyline in A Realm Reborn before you get Heavensward. You really do have to. A final thing then, just Roban's little ending in 3.5.6, where, you know, he obviously disagrees with Ilberd and everything that he's done, but you can see that little bit of, you know, respect even through it all. You kind of still knows, well, he does care about my homeland, and that just leaves you in this place where you're like, shit, we've been battling for so long, it is finally time to go. So overall, Heavensward is the best narrative I've ever played in an MMORPG, and frankly, because MMORPGs have taken up so much of my time over the last quite a few years, it is one of absolutely the top, you know, notch game storylines. It had it all, you know? It had some nice grounded stuff, it had the changing of a nation, it had the politics, it had the action, it had, you know, a little bit of, it's a Japanese story, you can't trust the Pope, but I kind of enjoy that stuff a lot anyway, so it just had it all, you know? I really feel like I've just been given the complete package. And what I hear about Stormblood is that Stormblood is a lot more on the ground. It's a lot more dealing with those grounded things. It doesn't have as much of the higher fantasy concepts. I know a lot of people don't like Stormblood as much for that. I will say that because I really like how they executed the little touches of that so far in Heavensward, I am very much looking forward to Stormblood. That said, with renewed sense of me feeling like the characters that I'm used to and like can die, they've handled all the deaths perfectly so far, and they really have hit. And I guess that's the thing. I'm just so impressed by how this team manages to stick the landing on almost everything they do narratively. It's a very deep feeling of satisfaction that I have coming away from this. And then they're masterful at setting up the future plot elements in an exciting way. You know, an exciting way that doesn't feel like I'm being baited for the future. You know, you have these tantalizing things where it's like, oh shit, look where the story can go. This is so cool. But they don't just give you that. They always seem to ensure that you feel satisfied with where you are when a beat in the story ends. And that's because they're willing to do an epilogue, they're willing to have those extended character conversations, and yeah, buying the skip, pure madness. I now understand that the skip is probably really more intended there for people who, I don't know, just an old character or something, but I couldn't imagine playing this without the skip. I mean, even going to Stormblood, so much of it was set up by Realm Reborn. How could you, I don't know, seems like it would ruin it. So anyway, Stormblood, that's where I'm going. I can't wait. I know people have said things, but you know what? From what I've seen so far, Xenos seems like quite fella. A few interesting things going on. I hear the patches are all very fun too, so I'm still looking forward to it. Yes, it does seem like it's weaker than Heavensward and Shadowbringers, but it seems like it's still pretty strong. So anyway, I'm going to do that. Thank you so much for just everyone giving me the kick up the ass I needed to get into this journey. I'm having a goddamn blast. I'm going to be playing more tonight. Have a great day. Enjoy. Not have many days to Endwalker. I wonder if I'll get there. Anyway, that's it for me. Goodbye.
Sloppy.